I'm Maya Foster, and I've mastered the art of concealing injuries using foundation. Before opening the Ink and Soul tattoo parlor last night, I powdered my morning regimen before Derek labeled my artwork rubbish. The purple marks on my ribs from being pushed against the kitchen counter portray that narrative more vividly than words can. I murmur to my reflection, wiping concealer beneath my eyes. How could you ever look like hell? As I unlock the shop entrance, the bell rings in my left eye, where his ring caught me. The fresh autumn air in Jacksonville, which smells of fallen leaves, and maybe my first, feels good against my face. Before Derek, art was my haven, and because the customer isn't due until 12, I have time to develop fresh concepts. Keeps me alive, but now that I'm freezing, Derek's voice pierces his visage contorted with rage. He storms at my shop in the early stillness like broken glass. What the hell is this? He waves his typical anger, which makes my stomach drop. The phone screen says, "You didn't answer when I called." I say, "I was working," and stealthily return to my business. He laughs sharply and uglily, making more of those 3 early customers browse my flash art on the walls. Working. The customers shift uneasily, as one woman looks at the pitiful scrawls that no one wants. "You call that work?" He grabs my wrist and says, "Derek, please don't come here. Don't tell me where. Your time is all mine. And your fingertips are locating the painful region where yesterday's bruising resides." I move away, my face burning with shame, since the blasted place is a farce. Just like you, customers are now leaving, and their footsteps are moving quickly on the sidewalk outside. They're driving away. Business. You're the one acting like I'm pushing him away. His hold gets tighter. The shop goes quiet except for the hum when you can't even maintain this shit without my money. Independent artist. Of fluorescent lights. I sit by myself with my drawings after he goes, of defiance that he will never comprehend. My hands shaking as I turn the sign to closed and enter Jacksonville's without considering Spanish moss. I walk toward the river in the afternoon sun. For the first time today, I can breathe the St. John's River flowing, and the ancient oak trees are draped like whispered secrets. History unaltered, unconcerned with human brutality and minor heartaches. Why do I? The answer feels buried beneath years of dread and deception, but the question still haunts me like a shadow. No one else would tolerate you, and no one else would love something so broken, except standing here by, as Derek said. Something inside of me stirs as I watch the water's surface dance with the autumn light. The following morning, my ribs still hurt from Derek's shove, but I couldn't stay locked. Perhaps damaged things can also be beautiful. My roaming feet in my shop forever take me past art galleries and businesses I've never seen on King Street. A hand-painted sign captures my attention before Jacksonville's historic area feels different in the daylight, somehow gentler. The storefront front of I Sacred Grounds Coffee features elaborate chalk art with coffee beans entwined with. I'm drawn in by the craftsmanship of the delicate vines. The place feels like a haven. Local artwork is displayed on exposed brick walls, and the heady scent of freshly ground beans fills my nostrils like a cozy blanket. Appreciate the soothing background music of classical music that blends with the sweet murmur of good morning. "Ah, what can I create for you today?" a voice behind the counter asks. I look up and feel a change in my chest. The barista's blonde hair is pulled back in a modest ponytail, and her hands and blue eyes seem to be filled with boundless friendliness. She's gorgeous, but not in the convoluted way that typically scares me. She moves with studied ease. She smiles and says, "I'm not sure if I admit something strong. Trust me." I nod as I watch her work. Her movements are exact, and it reaches her eyes in a way I had forgotten was possible. Coffee makers purr, and steam wands hiss almost ceremoniously as she carefully moves the cup across. I'm in awe of the marble counter's foam art, which shows a flawless feather that is delicate, line that was expertly created. It's so lovely that I'm nearly scared. As I reach for the cup, there is a brief electric touch, but she doesn't pull when I try to disturb it by drinking our fingers brush. Away right away, and neither do I. "My name is Esme," she whispers quietly. "Maya." The coffee tastes like bliss, rich and complex, and it sounds different when I say it here, as if it belonged to someone braver, caramel undertones and an unidentified substance that I really want more of. While sketching in my notebook in a corner booth, I'm stealing looks at Esme, who serves every diner as though they're one cup at a time, the only person in the world creating unique masterpieces. My phone buzzes with Derek's name. My gut knots as a series of irate texts inquiring where I am flashes on the screen. But for once, I instead of hurrying to answer, Esme shows up next to my table for coffee. I'll close my sketchbook. Please, but not before she sees my sketches. She sees an artist, but she's not a tattoo artist or attempting to be one. Pointing at my notebook, I pause before moving it across the table. Derek always referred to my artwork as trash, but Esme's eyes scan the pages with genuine curiosity, saying, "These are incredible," says, "Your shading and line work are so talented that my cheeks get hot when Thank you, I murmur for the last time someone gave me a compliment on my job without expecting anything in return. I return to the hallowed grounds every morning for coffee and impossible foam art for the next 2 weeks, calm discussion with Esme, and an hour of solitude prior to confronting Derek's state of mind. She never inquires about the bruises, but occasionally her gaze lingers on the concealer, which doesn't completely cover everything. Her coffee art is created every day, grows increasingly intricate, including hearts, flowers, and even little portraits that astound me. So I begin bringing my sketchbook. As she works, she draws her hands to convey the focus on her face as she paints. As Esme states on day 14, as closing time draws near, I have been meaning to ask you something, but my heart stutters. She's going to inquire about the bruises and why I flinch whenever sudden noises disturb the quiet of the coffee shop. She goes on, next week we're having a latte art competition. Would you like to enter? I could teach. I'm not a barista. So the question really caught me off guard. However, as an artist, you occasionally see possibilities that the rest of us overlook while we're standing there in the golden. In the afternoon light, with the aroma of coffee and the prospect of something fresh, I make a choice that will alter. Yes, I agree. I would really like that when the competition day comes. Unusually mild October temperatures are pouring in through the front windows of the hallowed grounds, and 8 baristas are gathered behind the chief counter's confident and well-practiced moves make me feel like a fraud at the back of the line. Apron, you're anxious. Esme shows up next to me with tampers and measuring cups in her hands. I confess that I was frightened as I watched the other contestants expertly warm up their machines, while the judge described the guidelines, while my hands perspire for 15 minutes to produce our best latte art that will be evaluated on. The winner receives $500 and boasts about their technological prowess and inventive presentation. Esme murmurs that you have the rights to Station 7 for the year, leading me to the far end. Finally, keep in mind what I taught you. Pour carefully while tilting the cup and blowing the whistle. Steam wands hiss, grinders howl, blows and mayhem break out, and the serious contenders fall into synchronized. Esme exclaims abruptly as I struggle with the pora filters, spilling ground everywhere, and do rituals I'll never be able to perfect. Her hand rests over mine on the steam wand next to me, and I can feel the rhythm of her touch, makes my arm feel warm. And while we work together, I can smell coffee and vanilla coming from her body. She helps me move around on her clothes and teaches me to use sound alone to determine the temperature of the milk. Pour she whispers in my ear. I tilt the cup, and the steaming milk pours out after the... She taught me a pattern yesterday, and amazingly, a rough heart appears in... We are momentarily frozen in her hand as she breathes the lovely froth. Our faces are inches away while still covering mine, and as the countdown goes off, reality kicks in, and the judge descends. My heart appears pitiful in comparison to the swan swimming as I carefully examine each creation, either the elaborate rosette blossoming in last place at Station 5 or the cup at Station 3. Esme shakes her head, but I predict that you did something that none of them did. What's that you found it enjoyable? She's correct. Even though I was nervous and used amateur technique during those 15, with Esme's hands guiding mine and her breath on my neck, the minutes were heavenly as she created something lovely. With hushed encouragement, the judge declares the winner a downtown barista who created a small... We clap courteously when we see the metropolis in foam. But I'm not upset because something more worthwhile than prize money occurred at. As the crowd thins out at Station 7, Esme offers, walk with me. There's something I wish to demonstrate how we depart from the hallowed grounds together and enter Jacksonville's glorious day as she guides me through. I've never ventured past old homes with wraparound porches and gardens brimming with fall foliage on winding lanes. As we get at Hemming Park, she says something that I must share with you about who I was before the coffee shop and my stomach. Tightens. I was a nun, she adds, and the reasons this feeling between us can't be real are that she's married and moving away. The words have been hanging between us like a bridge for 7 years. Neither of us anticipated a nun, which clarifies her. I left the place because of her tenderness and the way she handles everyone with such care. When she motioned for me to join her on a park seat last year, I began to doubt everything about my beliefs. The mother's supervisor claimed that doubt was the devil's work, but it felt more like an awakening of what my calling and purpose were. For a brief period, Esme appeared to be praying as her hands folded in her lap, and I realized I was hiding from the confession feels so important that I want to share it with the world rather than serving it and keeping it to myself. Anything just as truthful. But where do I start with Derek's fists? I've lost all memory of what it's like to be. I'm in a relationship, and I'm struck with kindness. Instead, it's the way her blue eyes wait in that glance without passing judgment is complex. Unconditional acceptance is something I had forgotten existed. And it saddens me, mutter the scarcely audible words, and I let him to breathe sharply. However, rather of pulling away, she reaches for my hand, her fingers calm and warm, and whispers firmly, "Don't let him. That's not how abuse operates." I've never used the word hangs between us to describe it. I've never been able to publicly describe what Derek does to me. So why do you stay? Because I'm not sure who I am. Her tone is soft and inquisitive rather than accusatory. I acknowledge that without him, he has persuaded me that I am useless. But you are not. Her thumb moves across my knuckles. You're an artist who has the courage to compete in things you've never attempted and create stunning things. Something inside my chest cracks open with broken bits, yet it doesn't break, extending our nightly strolls to become a holy custom each evening following religious. When the grounds close, Esme and I stroll throughout Jacksonville's old streets, exchanging aspects of ourselves in a way akin to communion. Wafers. As we go down Forsyth Street tonight, Spanish moss hangs like a cathedral in nature. Tell me about your art, she asks softly in the twilight. When did you first know? I recall my early years. I drew on napkins, church newsletters, and everything else I could find in the afternoons. When I was 8 or 9 years old, my teacher mentioned that I had a gift from the back of my mother's grocery list. What happened to that young girl? The question is more profound than I anticipated. She encountered people who felt her gifts weren't sufficient, and she stopped walking. They were mistaken, weren't they? As they turned to face me in the golden light of a street lamp. Derek is correct about the money. Money isn't the purpose of art. And the words taste bitter. I can hardly keep my shop operating. When we touch the holy who is standing there in her previous shape, our eyes flash with something wild. Art is prayer made visible. Without a doubt, I sense a change within myself. When did I begin taking measurements? Worth by Derek's bank account rather than my own creative fire. So I need to understand why you left. Change in the convent, that is. Esme has started walking more slowly again. Catherine was another sister with whom I worked in the garden, caring for the vegetables that provided food for our community. Something about her tone makes me gasp. She had amazing hands. Esme keeps talking, lowering her voice to roses might flourish with hardly a whisper to bring life to the most uncooperative soil. I know there's more to the story we became, because of the way she says it in winter. According to Mother Superior, Esme's laugh is unfunny because she is too close. Claimed that if we weren't aware that some emotions were temptations masquerading as affection, friendship may turn into sin. My heart thuds as comprehension overwhelms me. You loved her, and I did. The admission lingers between us like a secret from a confession booth, not because of what they said was incorrect, but because it is entirely We've arrived at the riverbank, where the moonlight transforms the St. John's into what I believe divine love feels like. I take a seat next to liquid silver Esme, who is sitting on a wooden bench facing the lake, so I can feel her. What transpired with Catherine after she was moved to a monastery in Oregon? Esme's voice cracks a little. Perhaps she was correct, but it felt like a knife to leave her. It was best for both of our spirits. Her comments hurt me deeply, and I can relate to her understanding of betrayal and loss in the same way that love can turn into something painful, which is why you abandoned her in part. Turns to face me, her blue eyes gleaming in the stars. But more than anything, I understood that I couldn't truly serve God while I'm hiding who I am, because if love is divine, then all love must be sacred, settled between us like a bridge over perilous water. And I want to cross it in order to acknowledge the sentiments that are developing in my phone buzzes whenever she smiles and her palm touches mine over coffee mugs and latte art. Derek's voice breaks over the ringtone. Where the hell are you? I remark, stepping away from Esme, like a blade walking. Peaceful night, instinctively strolling about downtown when it's already midnight. Home. The line goes dead, and I look at the phone while experiencing the same knot of. I tell Esme that I have to leave because I'm afraid, but she's already standing. As I turn to depart, Maya grabs my hand and says, "You don't have to go back to him." Yes, I do. The words seem pre-programmed by Derek's 3 years of training, yet she says firmly that you decide to return. Something has changed. Her remarks follow me home, where Derek awaits me with accusations and rage that turn into the well-known routine of yelling and slapping hands. But tonight something's distinct tonight, and I recall the sensation of Esme's touch in contrast. I consider sacred art and divine love as I lie awake tending to new bruises. Given the way Esme's eyes meet mine without passing judgment, I allowed myself to see an other, a life in which love leaves no trace. But on Tuesday morning, I wake up with purple fingerprints on my wrist. I struggled through my makeup regimen where Derek grabbed me, but the concealer couldn't cover everything when I shove open the familiar door to the hallowed grounds. Esme looks at my face and becomes ferocious. She whispers, "Back room," and leaves the espresso machine in a guarded manner. Mid-order, I now follow her through a door I've never seen before, past the main counter. As soon as we enter the room, I realize that it is larger than I expected given the bare brick walls and the gentle morning light coming in through the overhead skylights. But it's what covers. There are dozens of artworks on those walls that completely silence my voice. Reimagined religious icons with stunning beauty, Mary Magdalene embracing another woman, Ruth, and angels with faces that are distinctly feminine and lovely, pulsate with Naomi's warm embrace. I breathe as I see these paintings, which are filled with holy energy filtered through a lens I've never seen before. My meditation in the painting was a picture of two women in flowing robes with their foreheads pulled together in prayer. As I explain, as I went, I had to close the door behind us. Her paintings depict tales of love as sanctuary that the church never taught me, giving me a place to explore what I couldn't previously. The sacred feminine divine is revolutionized by devotion. They are magnificent, fearless, and wholly genuine. Amazing, I mutter, and then I see myself in an old mirror that hangs between two canvases. With a bruise on my... Esme adds, "Let me help," as my cheek stands out against my pale skin, creating a first. She gets a first aid kit out of a cabinet and shows me how to sit on a stool covered in paint while she tends to Derek's ring cuts. Her touch is unbelievably soft, with each dab of antiseptic left close to my hairline. When she cups my face to inspect her work, her thumb travels across my face, and it feels like a blessing, like healing made real. Respectfully, she says, "You don't deserve this," her blue eyes flashing with righteous rage. "No one deserves this, Esme," I begin, but she dismisses me. Her hands continue to warmly and steadily frame my face. "So these sentiments I have for you aren't confusion or recovery after leaving the church, they're real." My heart stops and then begins to beat twice as quickly. Sensations every time her touch slides over my bottom lip. The way I glow, I've learned the sound of your laugh by heart. And I want to keep you safe from everyone when you come in every morning. I've never been this close to someone before, and the air between us crackles with unspoken possibilities. Who has ever wounded you? I've never felt this attraction to someone outside of fantasies, and I hardly ever told myself that I think about you all the time. Is that wrong? She asks, her voice fading to a whisper. Rather than, her eyes flicker as I respond, leaning forward until our foreheads meet and we are breathing the same air in the same space. Closed, and I follow suit, allowing my instincts to lead me. When our lips connect, it's exactly like kissing Derek. Pure connection that feels like returning home after years of being lost, without any demands or conquests, like coffee and opportunities, such as anxieties being allayed and prayers being answered. As her hands go through my hair and mine discover the gentle curve of her waist, the kiss naturally deepens. When we eventually separate both, they fit together flawlessly, like pieces of a puzzle that I was unaware was missing. She presses her forehead against mine one again while breathing heavily, and I've never started. She acknowledges that we are still entangled in that secret, but neither have I. Time freezes in the sanctuary surrounded by her groundbreaking artwork, and the reality that we have both been carrying. Intervals between breaths and heartbeats between the life I've been leading and the one that is now unfolding in front of me. Like sunrise, I question, what does this mean? Even though I already know, despite the gravity of the situation, we have a choice, she says steadily, and we can act as though nothing happened and return to a safe distance, or we can have the courage to follow this and gaze into her eyes when surrounded by. I am aware of the decision my heart has already made when I see images that honor love as a sacred act, rather than a shameful secret. I repeat to myself, I want to be brave. Her grin could give the entire city strength. 3 weeks into whatever it is that Esme and I are becoming, I float instead of drowning. My days have been filled with snatched moments and covert smiles. But I'm discovering that happiness makes you reckless. Derek says something fresh lately during breakfast. His tone is informal, but his eyes are calculated and diverted. So I concentrate on putting jam on my toast and trying to keep my hands stable while working on the shop. I find it chilling that your appointment book appears to be half empty. Although it's technically true, I've been working on new ideas. So when has he been looking at my appointment book? After years of drought, influence has rekindled my creative spirit and inspired me to create like water. Derek sets. He carefully puts down his coffee cup to reveal my portfolio, doodles on the kitchen counter that gradually showcase images of feminine curves and flowing lines. He calmly turns through pages while observing Esme stroll around the hallowed grounds, his face deepening. He claims that these get darker with every rotation until becoming softer, like a recommendation for better ladies that a woman would desire. And that's beneficial for businesswomen. You spit out the term as if it were nasty. Do you really believe you understand what women need now? There's something terrible lurking beneath his query, but I'm unable to decipher it quickly enough to defend myself. So I declare I should get to work and reach for my... We're not done yet. His hand smacks down on the counter, pinning my fingers. For the following hour, he meticulously analyzes every facet of my recent actions and explains why I'm returning home. Every question feels like a probe, as I consider why I appear happier now and why my art has evolved. By the time I make it to my business, my anxieties have shot through the roof, and I contact Esme in need of help. Please come over tonight so I can hear her voice like other people need oxygen. Now that he's working late, are you certain it's safe? The word feels almost archaic. Nothing about loving Esme is risk-free, but I'm confident there are certain dangers worth taking. She shows up that night with takeaway from our favorite Thai restaurant and a sundress that warms my heart. She laughs, filling in the gaps, and we dine cross-legged on the floor of my living room. Derek, generally tension-filled, "I have something for you," she says, generating a tiny, folded parcel from her handbag. Contains a lovely pendant made of silver that is shaped like... "It's lovely," I say as she fastens it. A feather like the foam art that began everything between us. Her fingers feel warm against my skin around my neck, as if we were kissing As we fall onto the couch, I realize that we've relocated the pendant press between our bodies. Her hands map the location of my cheeks, while mine finds the delicate area at the base of her throat, below her ears, which makes her, this time, there is no hesitancy or dread of being discovered when we touch, in a state of suspended animation where her words, the fabrics glide, and her breaths whisper are all that count. After that, we lie entangled on my couch, her head resting on my breast as I trace patterns, my name sounding like a plea. "I adore you," she says against my flesh on her naked shoulder. "Beautiful, dazzling, and unrecoverable, like stars in the sky. I also adore you." And we sleep together, safe in our temporary. The sound of a camera clicking wakes me up in paradise. Derek is standing at the doorway with his phone, elevated, catching everything, and his contented grin turns my blood like icy water. Well, Esme jolts awake as he says in a deadly quiet voice. This explains everything. Her face has turned pale as she reflexively pulls a throw blanket over us both, but her jaw is set resolutely. This is my house," she says to Derek, who laughs sharply and unsightly. He thumbs up at his phone. "But you're the one who doesn't belong here. Sweetie, I wonder what your coffee shop patrons will make of these images when they hover over the screen. What about your previous, I beg you, friends, Derek?" But he's already typing, so it's too late to say goodbye. By tomorrow morning, everyone in Jacksonville will be aware of the type of woman you are. Ladies, in your little haven, are the pictures truly being uploaded with a gentle chime that sounds like the end of the world? At 3 in the morning, the first brick flies through the window of the hallowed grounds, shattering the glass, and I pray Derek's, the police, looking bored, took a report after the threats were withdrawn, and I swept the broken glass into tidy piles that, "Kids," the cop continues, "mirror the pieces of my life. Probably just vandalism." I don't mention the messages or the pictures that are making the rounds on Jacksonville's social media platforms. You know, the way that I'm bombarding my phone with phrases like "I won't repeat Derek's revenge" is so precise that it targets every safe place. By noon, the hallowed grounds that Esme and I constructed together are deserted except for the typical morning bustle has vanished for the two of us, and in its stead is unfriendly. Esme wanders around the room like she's sleepwalking, with stares and whispered chats that end when we arrive. She continues, avoiding eye contact. "Maybe I should close early today since I'm mechanically cleaning equipment that's already spotless." "He already has, so don't let him win," she says, pointing to the boarded glass. Before I can reply, take a look around Maya at the vacant tables and the quiet where laughter and chatter once existed. When the door chime signals a visitor, Derek walks in grinning as if he owns the space. "Good afternoon, ladies. How is business?" I command. I am sharp enough to cut glass, putting himself in Esme's way, which is not very neighborly, and he looks at the damage with a phony sense of shame. "Your window is getting tougher every day, and you did this to me." Exaggeratedly innocent. My hand shoots to his chest. "I was at home all night. We had a nice conversation with our neighbor about upholding family values and community norms, and the implications hit like a violent assault. He's no longer operating alone, and he's used the hatred of an entire community as a weapon. What do you think?" Despite her hands shaking, Esme asks in a firm voice. "Want to check on?" He looks at her with a predatory interest, which is my investment. "See Maya here. Owes me a lot of money for general upkeep, personal loans, and shop rent. I don't owe you anything, lady who can't handle her own life. The receipts show that you have supported you for 3 years, as you were playing house with your father's credit cards." He pulled a folder out of his jacket. As he distributes the papers over, my blood freezes because they are all legally binding. I hardly recall signing Esme's counter-loan agreements, leasing contracts, bank transfers, and other documents when I was at my lowest. There are times when the sum of the figures exceeds the $47 in worth of my shop, cheerfully states that the full amount, including interest, is needed by Friday. Failing, which I cannot use the company as collateral. Is it because I believe the terms are quite explicit? Of course, there may be opportunity for bargaining when your friend chooses to go on a lengthy vacation far from Jacksonville for good. Esme's breathing becomes crisp, but her voice has the authority of someone who has made service pledges that you can't ignore. Can't I make Derek grin and tell me, "Sister, how to scare us into hiding? How many clients did you serve today? How many neighbors grinned at you as you passed by? How long was this modest coffee shop open? In less than a day, the truth in his words pierces deeper than any physical blow, and the store becomes just another deserted storefront. I say this because he has turned our haven into a battlefield, where love itself turns into the adversary. No, sweetie, as soon as you brought your girlfriend into my company, she joined it, and he leaned in closer. Esme can still hear his voice fading to a whisper. You want to protect her, pay what you owe, and both of you vanish. And the quiet lasts like a held breath until Esme steps forward. We're not hiding, and something in her voice causes Derek's smile to waver a little. And we're not paying extortion under false pretenses of debt. She keeps moving to stand by my side. And we're going to battle what army? He chuckles. But the sound is unconvincing as you gaze around the entire city. Believes you're weird? Then we'll find allies elsewhere. Esme says, those who recognize that love cannot be negotiated wish Derek luck with that. Returning the papers to the folder you have till Friday. When we stand in after he departs, the remains of our safe haven, clutching each other like lifelines. Yet rather than giving up, I sense something unexpected. Pure, righteous hatred is building in my breast toward everyone who has ever made me feel insignificant with each whispered voice and each hand raised against love. I tell Esme, he's right about one thing. We deserved less than happiness. Need allies. Where can we locate them? I consider scheduling appointments with customers who confide in me about their experiences, men who know what it is to be different, women who have overcome their own struggles. And writing in ink and skin, we begin with the individuals who already know us. I say, 1 discussion. Artists who understand the price of genuine expression. 15 people are standing when Friday arrives with an unexpected sunrise. Hanging placards outside of places of worship that read, Love wins in small business. Big hearts for my regular client Marcus. His late spouse heard you, and he leads the group with his arms wrapped in sleeves I made to commemorate his military service. When Esme and I arrive with coffee and donuts, nobody messes with my artist. Sarah from the scene says he needs backup. Her whole book group was brought to the downtown gallery, and the couple who run the vintage store next door set up a table offering free coffee to supporters. And Mrs. Chen from the corner market joins us in saying that Derek is bad for the community. How did you organize this? I ask Marcus, overwhelmed by faces. In her forceful English, he points to the expanding group of people. I know and some I don't. You think you're the only ones with stories. He says, these individuals have fared worse than others. And by 9:30, we've drawn local press teams and a constant flow of interested bystanders, some pausing to read our signs and nodding sympathetically, others rushing by with scornful. There are 2 smiles, 2 thumbs up, and 2 voices saying something for every frown. I turn to see a woman wearing a sharp business suit saying, we see you, Maya Foster. Rebecca Martinez, ACLU, reached out and said, we heard about your situation. Relief rushes through me so quickly that I almost cry. Could you please assist with those loan documents? Your boyfriend is threatening you with financial abuse, predatory lending, verbal coercion, and absolutely unenforceable threats. As she goes over our possibilities, I see Derek's actions, which we can bury him in legal fights for years. As the truck turns the corner, he pauses at the red light and looks at our spontaneous rally with a look that changes from self-assurance to perplexity to sincere terror. Rebecca goes on. He faces felony charges in Florida for distributing the pictures without permission, which is revenge porn. We can have him do it, Esme says, before I hesitate, because people need to know that I'll be arrested before midday. Are there repercussions for this type of harassment? The cops show there 20 minutes later, but we, Derek sits, are not handcuffed in the rear of a patrol vehicle as Detective Rivera goes over the allegations, which include extortion and cyber harassment. By sharing private photos without permission, it turns out that your neighbors aren't as understanding as he initially believed. According to Rivera, 3 individuals came forward with audio recordings of him boasting about his scheme at Murphy's Pub. Our fans tear down when Derek's truck is taken away because good individuals don't like deception. Mrs. Chen prepares a cake with rainbow frosting and wobbling heart designs, which sparks spontaneous clapping. Marcus begins a collection to replace the broken window at Sacred Grounds with an even more exquisite piece, saying, I can't. As we watch our town celebrate, I murmur to Esme, I think it's over. It's just beginning, she corrects, drawing me in close. That night, we sit by ourselves in Sacred Grounds after the last supporter leaves, and the news crews take away their gear. With cards, flowers, and assurances of ongoing business, the boarded window has been converted into a I have something for you. I tell Esme, drawing a sketch on a canvas for chalk messages of unity and hope. Working covertly, it depicts 2 women's hands entwined with feathers and coffee beans as the words. She requests our new window, with holy grounds flowing beneath a beautiful script. We first make love that evening in my apartment. At last, unafraid, and every touch seems joyous in secrecy, like the tangible expression of power over forces that attempted to keep us apart, after which we lie entangled in our plans for the future, including the coffee nook and the addition of my tattoo. Browse the art shows we'll put on, the life we'll create, and we won't regret who we love. Esme whispers into my shoulder. I never thought I could be this happy, but perhaps that's what love does. Demonstrates possibilities we never would have thought possible. Outside our window, Jacksonville sleeps soundly beneath stars that appear more optimistic than ever. Tomorrow will present new difficulties, but tonight, we may take comfort in the knowledge that occasionally when you stop hiding from the light, it will brighten the entire universe in return, and every victory will taste better. 6 months after Derek's incarceration, the war that before them has changed, and Soul Tattoo has become something. Esme's gorgeous coffee area, which takes up the front half of the room, is barely noticeable. The combination of a window design engraved onto glass that captures morning light like captured rainbows creates a diverse crowd, performers looking for enduring mementos of their own triumphs. Coffee drinkers learning about Esme's remarkable 1 table 7 wants the feather design, while latte art couples are planning matching tattoos to honor their personal struggles. I look up as she creates another masterpiece, the same one as your pendant, and I shout out steam wand hissing, drawing a phoenix above my client's shoulder blade to commemorate 6 months of being free of her. My personal nightmare is how comfortable our routine is, and how well the coffee shop and tattoo parlor work together. Like a manifestation of meditation, Marcus shows up for his afternoon cappuccino, taking a moment to look at the gallery wall we put up last month, where my commissioned flashwork is shown next to Essay's paintings. It's still remarkable to see images and artwork by local artists that chronicle our transformation from victims to winners. That bastard claims to have settled into his customary location after 3 years. Men who take pictures of ladies without their consent are not appreciated by judges. So I respond by cleaning my needles in between sessions. The court win includes the financial fraud accusations, harassment counts, and violations of restraining orders. Felt empty at first because, while justice isn't denied, it isn't delivered either. But witnessing Derek's handcuffed departure while our town watched provided me with closure I wasn't aware I needed. Instead of fist-shaped bruises, Maya Esme refers to what is written in judicial transcripts. I need a moment to gently come here while I finish bandaging my client's fresh. I get a tattoo and head to the coffee counter, where Esme is standing next to a tiny velvet box, her cheeks glowing. What's this? I ask, nervously excited, even though my heart has known for 6 months. You taught me, she says, her voice echoing throughout our common area. You saved my life by refusing to hide. That love is divine not only when it's practical or accepted in society, but also because it chooses bravery over comfort. As our clients realize something important is happening, there is a pause in conversation. Marcus smiles from his corner table while Sarah from the gallery records Maya Foster Esme with her phone. Keeps getting down on one knee next to the espresso maker. Will you marry me with the same courage? You've shown me the ring every day, and it's flawless, with silver and gold bands entwined in the shape of coffee beans, and exquisite carvings on tattoo needles that shine like promises made visible. Yes. I breathe, make it louder for the shop bursts in cheers and acclaim as everyone hears, yes, damn it. Yes, Mrs. Esme places the ring on my finger as though she's proposing, and Marcus begins a toast after Chen brings champagne from wherever. As our guests rejoice all around us, she whispers, I love you, as she finishes a masterpiece. Too, I respond, amazed at how straightforward those words sound now in contrast to the later that night, once the final client departs and we turn the tables. They once carried an earth-shaking intricacy. Signed to closed, we sit together and carefully plan our future, much like Esme does with her latte art. Wedding locations that honor our love instead of tolerating it, and honeymoon spots where holding hands isn't need bravery. Children, perhaps through surrogacy or adoption, little humans will explain that love does not separate but multiplies. Do you ever miss it? I ask the convent. I'm referring about the assurance she never expresses without trepidation. As we secure our common haven, I discovered truth that is more than certainty. The girl who used to cover injuries comes to mind as we stroll hand in hand through Jacksonville's ancient streets. She seems like a stranger now that she wears makeup every morning. I knew her for a short time, but I've never understood this version of I feel like the person I used to be, the one that defends others, creates communities, and loves without apologies. Always intended to be. All I needed was the appropriate companion to help me recall who the ring on my hand was. As we pass beneath centuries-old oak trees and Spanish moss, a finger catches streetlight. Tomorrow will present new difficulties, new clients, and chances to demonstrate that love triumphs when people don't give up. But tonight, as I go home with I'm right at home as a future wife.